Draco thrusters on Dragon, primarily the 4 located on the forward bulkhead, and is executed at the apogee, or the highest point of Earth's current orbit around the Earth. This Deorbit Burn will alter Dragon's path to ultimately line it up to re-enter Earth's atmosphere and splash down off the coast of Florida. Splashdown today is planned for 2:57 p.m. Pacific or 5:57 p.m. Eastern.
The Crew 9 mission began a little differently than usual, since Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams were already aboard the space station when Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov arrived in the Crew 9 spacecraft in September. Having arrived as the crew flight test crew for Starliner, Wilmore and Williams were fully incorporated into the space station's Expedition 72 team and began research and other work aboard the station along with the other crew members. Additionally, Williams commanded the orbiting laboratory for much of the expedition.
You guys got redirected?
And after successful liftoff and separation from Falcon 9, Nick and Alexander made a short flight on board Dragon to the International Space Station in September. Both veterans of long-duration station missions, both Williams and Wilmore conducted spacewalks during their 9 months in space. Having had the capacity to leave the station at any point, had there been some type of emergency, the crew members began packing for their voyage home about a week ago and worked through tasks and shared lessons learned with the newly arrived Crew 10 team who got notified a few days ago.
For return operations such as this, NASA and SpaceX closely coordinate with the United States Coast Guard to establish a safety zone to ensure public safety and for the safety of those involved in recovery operations, as well as the crew on board the returning spacecraft. Multiple notices are issued to mariners in advance of and during recovery operations, and Coast Guard patrol boats are deployed to discourage boaters from entering the splashdown zones.
Now, we do want to stress to the public the need to respect this safety zone. Recovering a spacecraft from the water is a hazardous task, and any other boats interfering increases risk to the astronauts in Dragon, the teams working to recover them from the water, and the safety of those that come too close. So for the safety of the crew and your safety, we recommend you sit back and watch as we'll be bringing you the best possible views of our astronauts' homecoming.
And they will be the best views that you can get. So let's take a minute to meet our returning crew. U.S. Space Force Colonel Nick Hague is your Crew 9 commander. He was selected by NASA as an astronaut in 2013. This was his second spaceflight to the International Space Station and third launch overall. He spent 171 days in space with Crew 9 and has a career total of 374 days in space.
Damn.
During his mission, he completed a spacewalk with astronaut Sonny Williams. That was his fourth spacewalk, earning him a career total of 25 hours, 56 minutes of spacewalking time. Before Crew 9, Hague previously served as a crew member of Expedition 59 and 60 back in 2019. He flew with Alexei Ovchinin and NASA's Christina Koch. So this is his second time sharing the space station with Ovchinin. The Kansas native is a test pilot of a distinguished graduate of the United States Air Force Academy. Nick spent 5 months in Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. He voluntarily transferred from the United States Air Force to U.S. Space Force in 2021 and is an active colonel. His wife, Katie, is a retired U.S. Air Force colonel, and they have 2 sons.
NASA astronaut Sonny Williams is a mission specialist for Crew 9.
They come in today. Yeah! Sonny Williams, let's go!
He launched aboard Boeing Starliner spacecraft and arrived at the space station on June 6th. And it looks like we are beginning to get some views inside the spacecraft, overlooking the shoulders of the crew on board Dragon. We'll continue to bring you those views throughout the day and views throughout Splashdown this afternoon rather. But to jump back into a little bit more about Sonny, she became an Expedition 71-72 crew member, and she logged 286 days in space on this mission. But she actually has a total of 608 days in space, the second most time in space by a U.S. astronaut. Former NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson ranks first for the U.S. with 675 days in space. She conducted 2 spacewalks and has completed 9 over the course of her career for a total of 62 hours and 6 minutes of spacewalking time. She ranks 4th on the list of cumulative time spacewalking by a female astronaut. And she has flown on 4 different spacecraft types, including the Space Shuttle, Soyuz, Starliner, and now Dragon.
Let's have her as
Previously,
president
she
instead.
served on Expedition 14 and 15 in
Let's have her,
2006 and
instead of Kamala
2007, and again with Expedition 32 and 33 in 2012. She's a retired U.S. Navy captain and is a proud graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy.
NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore is also serving as a mission specialist today. This is his 3rd spaceflight, and just like Sunny, logged 286 days in space. He conducted 1 spacewalk and completed 5 over the course of his career, earning him a total spacewalking time of 21 hours, 2 minutes. He's flown on 4 different spacecraft types throughout his career: the Space Shuttle, Soyuz, Starliner, and now Dragon. Previously, the Mount Juliet, Tennessee native served on STS-129 in 2009 and Expedition 41 and 42 from 2014 to 2015. Wilmore is also retired, a retired captain in the U.S. Navy.
And Alexander Gorbanov is a 3rd mission specialist serving on today's mission. Crew 9 was his very first spaceflight to the space station, earning him a total of 171 days in space over the course of his career. Gorbanov, along with Nick Hague, saw the arrival of 4 visiting vehicles and saw the departure of 4 as well. The duo orbited the Earth more than 2,700 times during their mission. Before his cosmonaut selection in 2018, Gorbanov worked as an engineer for a rocket space corporation and helped support cargo spacecraft launches from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan.
Nice. He's Russian?
To prepare for upcoming events, Dragon is currently doing a couple of things autonomously. First, it's isolating the thermal control system fluid loops from the radiator. This system is what will help keep
Once
the
again, folks,
internal
who got
temperature
notified?
of
Let me know in the
Dragon
comments.
very comfortable for Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander during the reentry phase. Dragon is also initiating separation of the claw mechanism, which will terminate data, power, and fluid connections between the spacecraft and the trunk in preparation for that trunk separation that I mentioned earlier. Now, as we saw before, we are hoping to get more views inside of the Dragon capsule. We will bring those, of course. We want to see more of our 4 crew members. But now a bit more of the Dragon Freedom capsule. It has flown on several missions for NASA. It first launched April 27th, 2022. To the International Space Station on NASA's SpaceX Crew 4 mission. It was subsequently used for 2 private spaceflight missions to the space station for Axiom Space, Axiom Mission 2 in May 2023, and Axiom Mission 3 in January of 2024. And of course, Crew 9 launched last year, is September 28th. So yeah, a little bit about the Dragon Freedom capsule.
Yeah, 1 hour to go,
we have once again between the shoulders of Commander Nick Hague, who is on the left-hand side of your screen there, and Mission Specialist Alexander Gorbanov there on the right.
That's right, Kate. And the next major milestone that we're looking ahead towards this afternoon is claw separation. We're targeting that claw separation at 2:05 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon, so less than 10 minutes from now. Continuing to get some views inside Dragon Freedom. To the far left there is NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore. And as you can see, the crew is suited up in their space suits. They are suited up in what we call dynamic phases of flight. So when they launch, when they dock, when they undock, when they return back for splashdown. We might hear some call outs on the loops about putting their visors down. That will happen just prior to deorbit burn.
History,
and you'll hear us pause when some of those communications happen. That's because we want to make sure that we are relaying the best information to you all, and so that you hear it as well. So if you do hear us pause, that is what we're doing. You also see they have their on there, and I know the gloves are pretty unique on the Dragon spacesuits, right? They're custom created.
Yes, the spacesuit overall is custom fit for each astronaut. These gloves enable usage of the touchscreen panels that they have in front of them. We
Uh-oh,
can't see it from
glitch.
this view, but that view we saw earlier between Alexander Gorbanov and Nick Hague, that is a touchscreen. It allows the crew to monitor.
I'm kind of scared. Who else is scared? Wait, what happened? Did it go off? Hold on, folks. Sorry. What happened? Share the link. Here we go.
So there in the
Here we go,
center,
folks.
we've got the location tracker, as well as on the left-hand side, it's mapping out the operations that Dragon is executing.
Oh my God.
The crew has to remain well informed of all these things that Dragon is doing autonomously. That basically means that Dragon is flying itself. The crew has the ability to gain control of the capsule if necessary, but the capsule is essentially going to bring itself home. But of course, in order to be familiar with
Freedom, SpaceX, deorbit sequence start in 5 minutes.
Freedom
And so we did hear that call out for the deorbit sequence start to begin here in 5 minutes. That call from the
Here we
ground
go.
came
5
from
minutes,
the core,
folks.
or crew operations resource engineer here in Hawthorne, Mission Control just behind
Yeah,
us.
that's a
And that
ride.
went up to Commander Nick Hague. He's going to be doing the majority of the communications during the flight downhill today through Splashdown, and they'll be communicating with the core all along the way. Now, we did mention that they are flying on Crew Dragon Freedom. The naming of spacecraft has gone all the way back to the very beginning of this human spaceflight program. This is a nod to Alan Shepard naming his spacecraft Freedom 7 during the Mercury program. And so the crew that first flew up on Freedom a few years ago had the opportunity to name this Dragon, and they named it Freedom. That was Crew 4 that was the first flyers on this spacecraft. It's also flown for Axiom Mission 2 and 3, and then, of course, today for Crew 9 as well.
Yeah, actually, fun fact about this particular capsule, of those 4 missions that Sandra just mentioned, we have seen daytime splashdowns for 2 of those. Today will mark the third of the third daytime splashdown. So there's something lucky about this particular capsule that gets daytime splashdowns. Nighttime is great because we can see even more clearly the capsule streaking through, but I personally love the daylight views because we really get even better views of the recovery team operations during that phase of the mission.
Yes, absolutely. And if you follow along with our missions, you'll know that sometimes weather is a watch item when it comes to undocking and splashdown. We do splashdown in the water, so we want to ensure that parameters like wave heights and wind speeds and precipitation, lightning, all of that is looking good for the crew and the safety of those recovery personnel. And today the weather is just pristine. We got off of space station on the very first attempt. So I'm joking around and saying that it was because it was St. Patrick's Day and we got really lucky with the weather.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Speaking of weather, we will be hearing from Core probably
Folks, I need you all. I need a favor.
20-ish.
Everyone, please retweet this stream. I'm going to drop the link in the comments. Retweet or share it on Facebook, whatever, so we get some more eyes on here.
Typically, before we enter the period of loss of signal, or LOS, we will hear an entry briefing from the core, the crew operations resource engineer, and they will deliver important information like updated anticipated splashdown and loss of signal times to the crew, as well as the wave height and wind speed. So we'll be standing by to listen in on those. Like I said, that will happen.
Who's going to be first to do it?
Typically after trunk separation. I can't quite remember if it's before or after Deorbit Burn. It must be before. But in any case, we'll be hearing all of that coming from Core. In fact, that individual is seated there in the room on your screen. That is SpaceX Mission Control in Hawthorne, California. That room is located just over our shoulders.
Thank you, Joe.
And that is where Dragon operators are standing by on console.
Joe was the first one to
monitoring the
retweet
progress
it. Let's
of
go.
Dragon as it continues its way home.
Don't forget to follow.
It's been at the point of splashdown, it'll be about 17 hours since Dragon undocked from the International Space Station. The team there in mission mission control. There
Thank
are
you,
multiple
Astrid.
teams, in fact, and they cycle through shifts
Get some more
to ensure
retweets
that
there.
everybody gets the required rest and sleep periods, just like the astronauts on board. That crew operations and resource engineer is seated there in the room, and that, like Sandra said, is the primary voice that we'll be hearing communicate from the SpaceX team to the crew on board.
That's right. And so it looks like we're about 3 minutes or so from the claw separation portion of today's flight. The claw is a portion on the spacecraft that holds the trunk to Dragon.
3
Following
minutes.
claw separation, we're going to jettison or remove that trunk because it's no longer needed. The trunk has solar arrays on it that provides power to the Dragon spacecraft. But now that we're beginning the reentry process, we need to go ahead and jettison that trunk and able to expose the heat shield, which is really going to do the heavy lifting as Crew 9 re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. They come in at 17,500 miles per hour. So they really need to ensure that that heat shield absorbs that heat. And there's
Deorbit sequence start.
Oh, here we go. Is that what's happening? Are we go or is it done?
And
Is
so
that
we
what's
did
happening?
just get communications there that the deorbit sequence start has begun. So here in just a couple minutes from now, we expect to hear information or a call back about the claw separation having begun. And again, that kicks off that trunk separation portion that I was discussing to remove that, expose the heat shield, and then eventually we'll have the deorbit burn. And we'll continue to walk you through all of these milestones as we approach them ahead of our splashdown at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah, we're very excited to bring the Crew 9 crew home. Sandra, we were talking about the trunk separation. That trunk is on a trajectory that will re-enter in the atmosphere and break up upon that re-entry. The heat shield itself is one of my favorite parts of the Dragon capsule. It is the workhorse of the re-entry phase. It will work to protect the Dragon capsule and the crew members on board during the re-entry phase as the temperatures outside of the capsule build up to, I believe, about 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit in excess of. And meanwhile, the interior of Dragon stays a very comfortable temperature. That heat shield does a lot of the work, and we'll see that plasma build up on the exterior of the capsule. As a result of the plasma that builds up, we will lose communications with the crew. This is known as loss of signal, or LOS. This is roughly a 10-minute period on average, even less than. I believe today it is probably about 6 or 7 minutes long. It kind of depends on the mission, and it happens for every Dragon capsule that re-enters the atmosphere. Due to that plasma buildup, we're not able to communicate or command the capsule, so we stand by while we wait to regain communication after we pass through that period of loss of signal and get what's known as AOS, or acquisition of signal.
What's going on here? Thanks for sharing on Facebook.
Continuing to stand by for claw separation, and then we'll look towards trunk
separation.
separation.
Share on Twitter?
It'll be just about a minute or so after that. That happens
Drop
pretty
the link in the comments. Help me get the word out, folks.
Some of our milestones will take a little bit longer throughout the day. For example, we will have a deorbit burn after that will take about 7.5 minutes and helps get Dragon set up in the right trajectory to splash down in the Gulf off the coast of Florida. So continuing to stand by for claw separation.
Nominal trunk jettison.
Here we go, trunk jettison. Man,
all right. Great news there. That trunk has been jettisoned from the Dragon capsule. So the claw was separated. That's the mechanism that connects the telemetry and power between the Dragon capsule and the trunk. In order to expose the heat shield underneath Dragon, we had to jettison that trunk, and so we just got.
Let's have some hearts in the chat for the astronauts.
So that is great news. basically means that telemetry
Why wouldn't they
is
show it? I
looking
know.
good,
Maybe it's
and
we're gonna say
that
it's
the
not
nitrox
real.
system is primed for cabin and suit cooling, and the heat shield, like I said, is now exposed and ready for atmospheric reentry. The trunk served its purpose by gathering energy from the sun through its solar cells and converting that to battery power. Since we separated the trunk, we can't generate any more new power, but we really don't need to since we're coming home and Dragon has enough battery power already stored. Now, up next, the final steps that Dragon will perform prior to reentry: the slew, or the maneuver to deorbit burn attitude, and then the deorbit burn itself. This deorbit burn is the last time that the forward Dracos, which are the 4 thrusters located on top of the spacecraft under the nose cone, it's the last time that they will ignite. The deorbit burn will place Dragon on a precise trajectory to return to the splashdown zone off the coast of Florida. Off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida, and that will last about 7.5 minutes once it starts.
And so deorbit burn is targeted for 2:11 p.m. Central Time, so about 2 minutes from now. As we mentioned, it's going to last about 7.5 minutes, again, helping to get Dragon into the precise trajectory to ensure that splashdown occurs in the area
Let's
that
go.
was
60
calculated
people in the house.
and where the recovery team is already
Hit the
in
like,
place,
share this
ready
video.
to support splashdown operations
Dropping a
today.
link for
The recovery
Twitter.
vessel Megan
reshare
is
this.
the ship that is going to be utilized today, and we
I only
also
see
have
one
what
share
is
on
called
Twitter.
fast boats that go out first to check the spacecraft and make sure everything is looking good before the recovery vessel Megan approaches. So that whole recovery process takes about an hour, I would say, from the time the crew splashes down to the time they're on the boat and the crew gets out of the capsule. And we'll continue to bring you live coverage through every step of the way today as Crew 9 returns home.
Indeed. Now, let's take a little bit of a closer look at Dragon. One of the great things about being close to the space station is that we can use space station cameras to look at Dragon. But now that Dragon is on its way home, we don't have those external cameras. So here's an animation of what the capsule looks like. We've got the pressurized section, the capsule on the top, and the trunk, or the unpressurized section, on the bottom. That's where those solar panels that we manufacture in-house are located, soaking up the energy from the sun and turning it into power for the capsule. At the very top of the capsule is the nose cone. That is where the Dracos, the forward Dracos, are located. That nose cone is currently open, not closed like we saw in that animation. Once we get through the final maneuverings for the re-entry phase, we will close the nose cone capsule just before Dragon begins its atmospheric entry to protect that forward hatch there located along with those forward Dracos. So go ahead.
That's right. I was going to mention that the nose cone does open shortly after launch, and it remains open the entire time that Dragon is docked to the International Space Station. So as an example for this particular spacecraft, Freedom, since September when it docked to the International Space Station, remains open that entire time, and here shortly it will close for the very first time since September.
So quick recap of what Dragon has done in recent history here. We basically began preparations for re-entry known as the deorbit sequence. So Dragon released the trunk. As we said before, we separated the claw, we released the trunk. It next will slew to the deorbit burn attitude. Slew basically meaning maneuver, so it will position itself correctly to execute that deorbit burn. We want the heat shield side to be facing forward, or first, if you will. We want that to be the leading edge of the Dragon capsule, as that heat shield is meant to basically be an ablative material for the heat that it will incur. Once we complete that deorbit burn attitude slew, we will initiate the deorbit burn itself. That will last for several minutes, expecting that to be to start here any moment now, actually, and then it will go until about 2:18 p.m. Pacific time, or 5:18 p.m. Eastern time.
And I did hear confirmation that deorbit burn is underway. As we mentioned, it's about a 7.5 minute burn. So within the last 10 minutes, Dragon has jettisoned its trunk and initiated the Deorbit burn just seconds ago. As mentioned earlier, for those operations, NASA and SpaceX closely coordinate with the United States Coast Guard to establish a safety zone to ensure public safety and for the safety of those involved in the recovery operations, as well as the crew on board the returning spacecraft. Multiple notices are issued to the mariners in advance of and during recovery operations, and Coast Guard patrol boats are deployed to discourage boaters from entering the splashdown zones. So we do want to stress to the public the need to respect this safety zone. Recovering a spacecraft from the water is a hazardous operation, and any other boats interfering increases the risk to not only the astronauts in Dragon, but the teams working to recover them from the water and the safety of those that may come too close. So for the safety of the crew, which you see there on your screen, your safety, we recommend you sit back and watch as we'll continue to bring you the best possible views of our astronauts' homecoming.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, this deorbit burn is the last time that we will utilize our 4 forward Draco thrusters. Forward basically meaning at the top of the Dragon capsule. Dragon Freedom has not yet entered the Earth's atmosphere. This deorbit burn is what will line the vehicle up and put it on its final trajectory to the landing site right off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
I don't know.
So basically,
I don't know. I guess in a little bit. Does anyone know
that the Dragon spacecraft
it's supposed to happen
and
pretty soon?
Really locks it in for that precise landing. As you can see on your screen,
get notified
right
for
now,
nerd report.
Sunny,
This
Butch,
video,
and
Karen.
Alexander are using their screens to keep tabs on the burn duration, the Draco firings, and trajectory details such as entry angle, spacecraft perigee, and how much distance remains until deorbit burn termination. As I mentioned earlier, Dragon is flying itself. So all the crew has to do is stay strapped into their seats and keep tabs on things. Although I must say, if I had one of those window seats, it would be pretty difficult to restrain myself.
We haven't
now, with Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander ready to deorbit and splashdown back on Earth,
I'm gonna kick
they will
in
be
some
heading
cash for
to
Visa.
one of 8 targeted sites supported by SpaceX and NASA. All of these sites are located off the coast of Florida, either in the Gulf of America or the Atlantic Ocean. Spreading the supported sites across multiple locations helps maximize the return opportunities for this mission and future crews, lowering the chance that we'll have to wave off due to bad weather. For those of you following along, you'll know that today's splashdown marks our final Dragon recovery on the East Coast. After 6 great years of successful recovery operations off the East Coast, we'll be moving all Dragon recovery operations back to the West Coast.
8 p.m.
And as always, NASA and SpaceX jointly select our splashdown location. And for today, the prime recovery site is off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. The selection process works with a lot of different variables, including the space station's orbital trajectory or path that it follows, what landing sites are available, and have favorable weather.
8 p.m. So in 6 hours?
Dragon has
Is that
for
what's
the
gonna
trip
go on?
home, and the sleep schedules for the returning crew members, as well as, of course, the big one, the weather.
We'll start with
Joe, I heard about
daily
that
return
joke.
options based off of the space station's current orbit and Dragon's capabilities to maneuver and line up for re-entry. The time from undock to landing at the primary site can vary from less than 6 hours to more than 39. Getting home.
Well, the good thing this week too is
obvious benefits
for Tesla. Everyone's saying that they catch on fire. They don't catch on fire unless someone puts them on fire, right? So those people doing that are the ones doing it, not the actual car. Shame on them.
Opportunities that would line up Dragon with the 7 landing zones and split them into what we call ascending and descending opportunities.
Dragon uses its Draco thrusters after leaving station to execute a series of altitude-lowering maneuvers and to line up with the selected primary site. It can also change to different alternative sites while in a free flight if sudden weather moves in that we may need to avoid.
3 hours from now?
So as we mentioned, weather is something we're constantly looking at, making the final call to proceed about 2.5 hours before the crew undocks.
6 hours from now?
So for the Crew 9 return, we looked at a number of weather items. Some of the obvious ones are no rain or a chance of lightning in the recovery zone, both for the safety of the crew inside Dragon and the recovery teams in the water. And we're also looking for wind speeds to be less than 15 feet per second or about 10 miles per hour, and relatively calm seas so that we can safely execute recovery operations, which includes landing a helicopter on the recovery ship to fly
So
Nick,
they
Sunny,
don't
Butch,
burn
and
in
Alexander
floods.
back to Florida.
That's a meme.
Once
You're looking
Dragon
at so many
began
memes.
flying today, we had a number of additional checkpoints to either proceed towards the primary site, head to
EVs
the
don't burn
alternate, or
in
select
floods,
a
man.
new zone based on
No
real-time
more
weather
than
data.
regular cars.
These checks happened all the way up until we were in the
Good
final
story, though.
hours before the Deorbit Burn, which has just about a minute or so left in it. And this is the last burn in the trip home that commits Dragon to re-entering
So
the Earth's
what are they
atmosphere.
leaving right now?
Now, we are currently waiting to conclude the deorbit burn. We've got less than a minute until that finishes. We will expect to hear a call out for nominal burn, which will confirm completion of that deorbit burn for Dragon Freedom. We can see images there from the touchscreen display panels that the crew utilizes in flight. We can see the visualization of exactly which one of the four forward Draco thrusters are firing. That's why you have kind of like a strobe effect there.
And if you're just joining us, you are looking at live views of the Dragon Freedom. On your left is Commander of Crew 9, Nick Hague. To his right is Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Grabenkin. And also in Gorbunov, excuse me, that is Alexander Gorbunov. And then also in the capsule today is NASA astronauts Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore. We are awaiting confirmation that their deorbit burn is complete, which is the last burn that's going to help set them up on a trajectory to splash down off the coast of Florida.
How many hours
Deorbit burn complete. Performance nominal. Nose cone closure initiated.
Freedom copies.
All right, excellent news there. We heard the words we were looking for, nominal burn. So that means that that deorbit burn was successful and nominal, meaning as expected. And we're now beginning to close the nose
that means
cone
it's about to do it
in
now.
preparation
They're
for
on.
atmospheric reentry.
So in the background, Dragon is currently inhibiting those forward bulkhead Draco thrusters that we just used to complete the deorbit burn, ensuring it's safe to latch the nose cone shut for reentry. Also, the vehicle has initiated the nitrox suit purge, which will help keep Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander cool and comfortable during reentry, which is coming up in about 20 minutes from now.
Yeah, reentry in 20 minutes.
The nose cone is closing and protecting the forward hatch for reentry, and the crew are using their screens to continue to monitor the locking of the nose cone, which is done by a set of hooks. And as we mentioned earlier, that nose cone has remained open since September, so this is the first time it's closing in a few months.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Now, we will be expecting, as I mentioned before, an entry brief from SpaceX Core. Again, that's the crew operations resource engineer who is seated in that room that you see there on your screen. That entry brief will provide updated times for anticipated splashdown, as well as the loss of signal or period of LOS. And that briefing will also give us information such as wind speed and wave height at the expected splashdown location. But all in all, everything has been great today. All events have been executed on time as expected, and we are looking forward to a splashdown of the Crew 9 crew at about 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time or 2:57 p.m. Pacific Time. Between now and then, things are going to start moving quite quickly. In fact, if anything, this will have seemed like the slower part of the reentry phase. We're going to go through, like I said, that period of loss of signal or LOS. That period is a few minutes long where we are unable to communicate or command the capsule due to the plasma that builds up on the exterior of the capsule. That period, like I said, lasts for a couple minutes. You will start to hear SpaceX Core hail the Crew 9 crew a little bit earlier than expected because we in the past have
media's not covering
communications a couple minutes earlier than initially anticipated.
You know why,
so we'll go through that period of loss of signal, that entry period, that specifically when the Dragon spacecraft is re-entering through the atmosphere. approximately at about 18,000 feet when the capsule is traveling at 350 miles per hour. We will see our first views of parachutes for the day. It's one of my favorite moments of return sequences is when we get to see the drogue parachutes. We'll see the drogues come out. Those drogues will help slow the vehicle down to about 119 miles per hour. And then that is when
this
the
isn't
main
SWAT's
parachutes
crap.
will come out from the Dragon spacecraft and then ultimately end in Splashdown.
And we are hearing confirmation that the nose cone is closed and everything was nominal or as expected with that closure. So as we begin the second half of entry, Dragon is now beginning to inject cooled nitrox into
My
the
guess
air
is the
being
mainstream
delivered to
media
the
doesn't want to
spacesuits
cover this
worn
because
by Nick,
there's a
Sunny,
woman
Butch, and
in
Alexander.
the crew.
Again, this is what will allow the crew to remain comfortable while external temperatures reach
That's right.
3,500 degrees Fahrenheit as they re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. So the heat shield is pointing forward, leading Dragon to the landing site.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the heat shield, Dragon's primary heat shield is comprised of PICA 3.0, which stands for Phenolic Impregnated Carbon Ablator. The first-gen PICA was initially developed by NASA for studying and sampling comets within our solar system.
SpaceX partnered with NASA to
Let's go,
develop
folks. It's
PICA
happening in
X,
20
which
minutes.
was the second generation product used on all
Oh my God!
Dragon
Thanks for the
1
subs,
cargo
folks. Look at all
resupply
those new
service
subs. Thank
missions
you.
that resupplied the International Space Station on 20 missions. PICA 3.0 was developed specifically for use on Dragon 2
I'm
crew
being
and cargo
sarcastic, Joe.
with enhanced structural
Because,
and
they
thermal
like to call everyone
capabilities that allowed the heat shield to be even more
Exactly.
effective in the way that
Being
it
sarcastic.
utilized
should be
the
huge
ability
news.
to make that heat ablevate as it goes through the Earth's atmosphere.
Thank you, Karen. Don't forget to sub to Karen, folks. Karen, drop the link to your channel, please. And let us know when your next video's up.
The remainder of Dragon is composed primarily of a SpaceX proprietary ablative material. It's another class of thermal protection, which is lighter weight versus PICA and protects the underlying composite structure during reentry to ensure the structural capabilities are maintained.
While Dragon will experience temperatures well over 3,000 degrees during peak reentry conditions,
my God,
the
3,000
characteristics of the thermal protection system, coupled with the environmental control and life support system,
I gotta be honest,
in the
I'm a
pressurized
little
interior will ensure that Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander stay cool and comfortable during all phases of reentry through Splashdown.
Now, if you've just recently joined us, we hope to regain views of our crew members inside Dragon Freedom, but we don't have those available at the moment due to ground station coverage. So we will bring those back to you as soon as we can. Now, after Dragon Freedom has re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, a series of parachutes will deploy to slow the crew's descent. First will be the 2 drogue parachutes, followed by the 4 main parachutes, and those will guide Dragon to its first contact with Earth since it launched back in September. Dragon will automatically deploy these parachutes when different pressure and positioning sensors on the spacecraft detect that they're at the right speed and altitude.
Vehicle velocity at drogue deploy is approximately 350 miles per hour, and they deploy at about 18,000 feet. Now, when the vehicle velocity at main deploy is approximately 119 miles per hour, and they deploy at about 6,500 feet. When Dragon splashes down in the water, the vehicle velocity will be about 16 miles per hour, so you can really see how those parachutes help to slow down the crew inside the capsule. The highest G load the crew is expected to experience today is about 3 to 5 Gs.
Yeah, when you think about really fun roller coasters, they're about in that range. So I'm sure that our crew on board will be well equipped to experience those Gs.
Got
it's
5 new people
subscribed.
Thank you. 5 new subs right now as I spoke.
And so we are continuing to make our way through a number of milestones today. We did have trunk separation.
Freedom, SpaceX. Nose cone is secure for entry.
Secured for entry. Let's go.
All right, great news there. That tells us that the final physical configuration change for Dragon is complete. We have closed that nose cone. This is the last physical change that Dragon undergoes prior to re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. It's important that that nose cone is completely closed because underneath it is not only where the 4 forward Draco thrusters are located, but it's also because that is where the forward hatch is located. That is the hatch that is utilized for the crew to ingress and egress from the station while it is docked on board. And since our capsules are flight proven and we reuse them on future space flights, we want to make sure that all of the integrity of that hardware remains intact. So that nose cone is successfully closed, and we're going to start moving pretty quickly here. As I mentioned before, we'll go through loss of signal. We'll get that signal back several minutes later, and then we'll see the parachute action.
Yep, and then that's all ahead of Splashdown off the coast of Florida. We're targeting Tallahassee as our splashdown zone today at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon. Now, you did mention the call to the crew. They'll do some additional calculations following that burn and potentially let us know if that splashdown time has changed at all. But right now, we are continuing to target 2:57 p.m. And you can see there on your screen a path of where Dragon will be re-entering today. So if you are in the southern tip of Mexico, you might have the opportunity to see Dragon. Because it's a daytime splashdown, you probably won't have too great of views, but potentially you'll have the opportunity to get a glimpse of it there.
Once again, Dragon operators, they're monitoring the progress of Dragon through this reentry phase. That is SpaceX Mission Control, located here in Hawthorne, California. That is also where the crew operations and resource engineer is seated. That person is the voice that we have heard multiple times and will continue to hear as the primary point of contact to the crew on board Dragon Freedom. We will also hear the voice of Commander Nick Hague. Basically, after we hear the Corps communicate something, we will hear Nick Hague indicate that they copy, that they heard the message well, some sort of recognition that the message was received.
And if you joined us yesterday for our coverage during the undocking, we were communicating through something that's called a big loop. We do that when we're in integrated operations with the International
Freedom, SpaceX for entry sequence.
Here we
Report
go.
when ready to copy.
Ready to copy.
All right, I've got some updated times for you. Our comm blackout start time is 2144. Our comm blackout end time is 2151, and our splashdown time is the same per your displays, 2157.
Karen, let's I want to go on your show.
Okay. Understand comm blackout start 2144, stop 2151.
Fingers
Splashdown
crossed,
first.
yeah.
That's a good readback. And with that, please report when tablets are secured behind the elastic bands, restraints are tight, and visors are down.
And copy, welcome.
Have I ever been on a show? I want to go on.
And with that communication from the Corps or Crew Operations Resource Engineer here in Hawthorne to Commander Nick Hague of Crew Dragon Freedom, we did hear that the loss of signal period is still at 2:44 p.m. Pacific, but we had a 1-minute adjustment to the acquisition of signal. That's going to now be at 2:51 p.m. Pacific time. However, our splashdown time remains the same at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
So all good news there as Dragon continues to make its way home with the Crew 9 crew. As we've mentioned before, we are splashing down on the Gulf Coast. We have ability to splash down on either side of Florida, but the location site just outside of Tallahassee, Florida is the site that was selected today due to best recovery conditions. And as Sandra mentioned before, weather is always a watch item, but everything is looking great for that particular recovery location. So I'm sure once we start getting views from the recovery vessel, I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty beautiful afternoon.
And we did mention that, of course, this is a daylight splashdown, so we should be getting some great views. We do have a couple of spacecraft called the WB-57, which are high-altitude planes that NASA utilizes during splashdown operations. Those are en route and going to be tracking the capsule as it makes its way through the atmosphere and should be providing some good views for us. Kate and I were just chatting about how we haven't had a daytime splashdown in a little while, so we're looking forward to the views along with you.
Yeah. Nighttime views are also great because we can see that capsule streaking through the night sky quite brightly. So
we'll be back
Sandra,
before
you said
we're coming
earlier,
back.
Here's the
daylight
astronaut.
will be a little bit.
Astronaut's going to speak. Let me know if you can hear this.
Back before long, so don't make all those plans without me. We'll be back before too long.
I can tell you at the outset, all of us have the utmost respect for Mr. Musk, and obviously respect and admiration for our President of the United States, Donald Trump. We appreciate them. We appreciate all that they do for us, for human spaceflight, for our nation. And
that's why the media isn't recording it.
The surface of the ocean. The recovery vessel, the main recovery vessel, will continue to make its way closer to the Dragon capsule. It is stationed a couple miles away from the actual recovery location, the splashdown location, for obvious safety purposes. So it takes a little while for that vessel to make its way over, but once it's closer, we'll have even better views of those recovery operations.
And you may be wondering why sometimes we splash down in the daytime versus the nighttime. And believe me, we would all love for these operations to happen during regular daytime working hours. But unfortunately, orbital mechanics just doesn't quite work out that way. So it has to deal with the location of the International Space Station, as well as where the splashdown zone is on Earth and that trajectory, as well as the phasing. So as we mentioned earlier, sometimes we have phasing as short as 6 hours, sometimes in excess of 30 plus hours. It just depends on where the targeted area is that the capsule is going to splash down. So today's phasing has been 17 hours since undocking occurred at 10:05 p.m. Pacific yesterday evening for us here in Hawthorne. Early wee hours for folks on the East Coast and other areas of the United States.
Yeah, but regardless of whether it's daytime or nighttime, the SpaceX recovery team has trained and practiced and rehearsed for it all. So regardless of daylight, they are really efficient with those operations. And but like you said, Sandra, it has been a minute since we have seen a daytime splashdown on a NASA SpaceX crew mission. The last daytime recovery was on Crew 4, which was the debut flight for the capsule flying today, the spacecraft known as Dragon Freedom. And so yeah, kind of a fun fact there in terms of the timing of that daylight splashdowns. Once again, standing by for more communication with the crew. The next event that we have coming up is the start of that period known as loss of signal. That is the period still expected at 2:44 p.m. Pacific time. This lasts for several minutes while the capsule is making its way through the Earth's atmosphere, the heat shield located at the bottom of the capsule, really doing all the work at that point in time in terms of using the atmosphere to slow the capsule down from its orbital speeds of 17,500 miles per hour.
Our tablets are secure, restraints are tightened, visors down.
Yeah, the media doesn't care about this. You all could share it,
Freedom,
like share
hard
my
copy.
stream,
Tablets are
like it,
secured,
tell people
restraints are
about it,
tight,
share others'
and visors
stream.
down.
That's all I can say.
All right, great news there in terms of continuing to make progress. That back and forth communication we heard was just letting Core know that per their instructions, Crew 9 has now put away everything that was necessary in order to begin the re-entry, including those tablets that were located on their legs. Those are now stowed away. They've tightened that safety harness that we see there, and the visors are now down. So with all that being said, let's take a minute to meet our returning crew. U.S. Space Force Colonel Nick Hague is your Crew 9 commander. He was selected by NASA as an astronaut in 2013. This was his second spaceflight to the International Space Station and third launch overall. He spent 171 days in space with Crew 9 and has a career total of 374 days in space.
Thank you, Tammy, for
During
sharing
his
that.
mission, he completed a spacewalk with astronaut Sonny Williams. That was his fourth spacewalk, earning him a career total of 25 hours, 56 minutes of spacewalking time. Before Crew 9, Hague previously served as a crew member of Expedition 59 and 60 back in 2019. He flew with Alexei Ovchinin and NASA's Christina Cook. So this is his second time sharing the space station with Ovchinin. The Kansas native is a test pilot and distinguished graduate of the United States Air Force Academy. Nick spent 5 months in Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. He voluntarily transferred from the United States Air Force to U.S. Space Force in 2021 and is an active colonel. His wife, Katie, is a retired U.S. Air Force colonel, and they have 2 sons.
NASA astronaut Sonny Williams is a mission specialist for Crew 9. This was her third visit to the International Space Station. She originally launched aboard Boeing Starliner spacecraft and arrived at the space station on June 6th. Following the agency's decision to return Starliner uncrewed, she became an Expedition 71 and 72 crew member, where she logged 286 days in space on this mission. But Sonny has a total of 608 days in space, the
Damn.
second most time in space by a U.S. astronaut.
5 minutes until predicted comm
Here you
blackout.
go.
We'll see you on the other side at 21:51.
21:51. Talk to you soon.
And with that call out from the crew operations resource engineer to Commander Nick Hague, letting them know that everything is looking good ahead of the loss of signal period. We will see the crew on the other side of the loss of signal period at 2:51 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon. Continuing on about Sonny Williams, who has a total of 608 days in space, the second most time in space by a U.S. astronaut. Former NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson actually ranks first for the U.S. with 675 days in space. Sonny conducted 2 spacewalks and has completed 9 over the course of her career for a total of 62 hours, 6 minutes of spacewalking time. She ranks 4th on the list of cumulative time spacewalking by a female astronaut, and she has flown on 4 different spacecraft types, including the Space Shuttle, Soyuz, Starliner, and now Dragon. Previously, she served on Expedition 14 and 15 in 2006 and 2007, and again with Expedition 32 and 33 in 2012. She's a retired U.S. Navy captain and is a proud graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy and was the first astronaut to run a marathon in space.
What?
Pretty awesome stuff. Now, NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore is also serving as a mission specialist today. This is his third spaceflight and, just like Sonny, logged 286 days in space. He conducted 1 spacewalk and completed 5 over the course of his career, earning him a total spacewalking time of 21 hours and 2 minutes. He's flown on 4 different spacecraft types throughout his career: the Space Shuttle, Soyuz, Starliner, and now
You been to
Dragon.
the Twilight Zone?
Previously, the Mount Juliet, Tennessee native served on STS-129 in 2009 and Expedition 41 and 42 from 2014 to 2015. Wilmore is also a retired captain in the U.S. Navy.
Next up is Alexander Gorbanov, who is the third mission specialist serving on today's mission. Crew 9 was his first space flight to the space station, earning him a total of 171 days in space over the course of his career. Gorbanoff, along with Nick Hague, saw the arrival of 4 visiting vehicles and saw the departure of 4 as well. The duo orbited the Earth more than 2,700 times since September. Before his cosmonaut selection in 2018, Gorbanoff worked as an engineer for a rocket space corporation and helped support cargo spacecraft launches from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan.
Joe brings up a good point. I remember the Apollo flights on TV
So if you
as a
are
kid.
just joining us,
The
we are
broadcaster would
continuing
ask
to
the
bring
audience
you
to
live
pray
coverage of
the
Crew
astronauts during
9's
re-entry.
return
And I think
to
this is
Earth
like even
following
bigger
their
because this is
mission
a
aboard
rescue
the
mission.
International Space
But
Station,
everybody's
where they
blinded by
completed
politics.
science and research investigations. We are targeting splashdown off the coast of Florida at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time. The next major milestone that we'll look ahead towards is what we call loss of signal, or LOS, when we won't have communications with the crew because they will be re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. And during this process, there is plasma that builds up around that heat shield. So we are not able to communicate with the crew, but we are anticipating to regain communications with the crew at a short time from now at 2:51 p.m. Pacific time today.
As we said before, everything continues to look good for the return of the Crew 9 team. We are about to go into that period of loss of signal. Once we get views of the crew inside the capsule, once again, we will be sure to bring those to you. But that period of time is when plasma is building up on the exterior of the capsule.
By the way, everybody, Karen, I just saw you
heat in
shared
excess of
on
3,500
Twitter the stream.
degrees
Thank you.
Fahrenheit. So we are unable to communicate or command the spacecraft at that time. And that includes, unfortunately, video feeds as well. So as soon as we get the views back inside Dragon, we will bring those to you. But until then, we are going to stand by and continue to monitor the progress of Dragon. Like Sandra just said, we are anticipating the blackout period to begin at 2:51 p.m. Pacific time, 5:51 p.m. Eastern time. This will last for several minutes. It's not super exact, even though we are predicting acquisition of signal, or AOS, to come back at 5:51 p.m. Eastern time. In the past, we have regained communication sometimes a little bit earlier than that. So we'll probably start to hear Core begin to hail Crew Dragon a minute or two prior to that anticipated acquisition of signal. But right now, Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander are
when are they gonna come in?
their seats
Is that a
inside
different time?
Dragon Freedom. Their visors are down, and they have put away or stored the tablets they had located on their upper leg to monitor Dragon's progress. Now they will be utilizing the touchscreen displays, where the current operation and future operations will be displayed as they are able to monitor
Good. I hope they give
Dragon's
Elon Musk the
progress
credit.
continually. As I said before, Dragon is autonomous, meaning it is flying itself. So the crew stands by and monitors, and those touchscreen displays are what will be allowing them to do so and prepare for events such as parachute deploy.
And while on board the International Space Station, Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander contributed to over 900 hours of science and research investigations, which is really the key purpose of the International Space Station. Now, the International Space Station is celebrating a major milestone this year, where they will be celebrating 25 years of continuous human presence in November. So if you're younger than 25 years, you've never known a day where there hasn't been a human living and working aboard the International Space Station, contributing to key science and research investigations that impact our lives here on Earth. There's research being done on Parkinson's, on osteoporosis, on cancer research, and a variety of other studies.
You see how that person came in earlier and said, what's the point? We have a lot of problems on Earth. Why go to Mars, or why go to space? Well, this lady just answered it. What is wrong with people asking that question? Why are we going to space?
Never known a day where there hasn't been a human living and working aboard the International Space Station, contributing to key science and research investigations that impact our lives here on Earth. There's research being done on Parkinson's, on osteoporosis, on cancer research, and a variety of other studies. Additionally, the microgravity laboratory provides a jumping off point for us as we venture back to the moon and onto Mars through longer duration space flights. One such example that the crew worked on during this mission was a alternative exercise device. In microgravity, the crew has to exercise for about 2 hours a day because they're not having the effects of gravity on their body. So to prevent bone and muscle loss, we counteract that with 2 hours of exercise per day. On board the International Space Station, they have 3 ways in which they can exercise. They have a bike, they have a treadmill, and they have a similar to a weightlifting machine that counteracts the microgravity environment. But a particular experiment that this crew tested out was a combination of all 3 of those in one smaller device. And this is really critical as we continue on to the moon, Mars, and beyond, because space is really important in spacecraft. So if we have something smaller that the crew might be able to utilize, that can potentially help us venture out even further into the solar system. So science is really the name of the game when it comes to the International Space Station. Some of the other science highlights that took place during this increment that are particularly interesting to me was we had the first wooden satellite that was deployed. This is a study to see if other materials might be more resourceful or renewable in space. So I'm really excited to see the results of that one as well.
You can't do
Additionally,
that
we had a
on
couple of
Mars because
spacewalks
there's too
that
much
took
gravity.
place
Okay.
to not only provide
How
maintenance
was
to the
Mars last
International
time you went
Space
there, bro?
Station, but also where we swabbed the outside of the space station near vents to see if any microbes that we all have microbes on us, to see if any of those could survive in the harsh environment of space, which again is very important for us to know and understand as we continue to the moon, Mars, and beyond.
Very exciting stuff. Now, at this point, we have now entered the communications blackout period for the Dragon spacecraft. This lasts approximately 7 minutes due to plasma formation around the spacecraft itself. During this time, no vehicle telemetry is received by mission control or the recovery team, and no external commanding of the vehicle or voice communication is possible. But as a reminder, Dragon is designed to fly itself. During reentry, the vehicle will be slowing down from orbital velocity, which is approximately 17,500 miles per hour. The top temperature that Dragon will experience upon reentry is 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. This blackout period, as I said before, we expect it to last about 7 minutes today, concluding at 5:51 p.m. Eastern Time or 2:51 p.m. Pacific Time. We right there have our first view of Dragon Freedom coming home to Earth.
And that view is from the
Here we
WB-57,
go.
which is one of NASA's high altitude planes that is tracking. Now, because of the way that this camera is configured, it does look like it is dark, but it is indeed daytime, and you're beginning to see that plasma trail as Dragon re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. All of that is expected. We are anticipating an acquisition of signal around 2:51 p.m. Pacific Time, so just minutes from now, and you may hear the core begin to hail out or call Dragon for communications and see if we can potentially get communications with them a little bit earlier. Following this, we'll have 2 events in rapid succession. We'll have the drogue parachutes deploy at 2:53 p.m. Pacific, followed by the mains just 1 minute later at 2:54 p.m. Pacific Time, ahead of a splashdown at 2:57 p.m. Pacific Time off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
Florida again.
Pretty incredible views of the Dragon spacecraft making its way home back to planet Earth with the Crew 9 astronauts on board.
Here we go,
again,
folks. You guys watching?
Is coming
Let's hit
from
those hearts.
the WB-57 plane. That heat shield we can see doing magnificent work as it works to
Freedom, SpaceX, comm check.
All right, we're going to start hearing the SpaceX crew operations resource engineer.
Dude, that's what I said, Joe. I don't know if you, Joe Rogan did not let Trump spill the beans about aliens. He kept it. Joe Rogan is awful.
Copy that,
He asked
Freedom.
Trump about aliens, and he wouldn't let Trump answer.
Great news there
Almost
from
like he's
Commander Nick
helping
Hague
cover it.
reporting back.
We see a healthy flight computer. Expect automated chute deployment.
Is that them? What am I looking at? What's up, Amor? Here we go.
Like we said before, things moving very quickly as Dragon Freedom makes its way home. Next event coming up will be deployment of the drogue parachutes. This occurs around 18,000 feet.
GPS has converged. Expect nominal altitude for drogue chute deployment.
We're about 2 minutes away from deployment of those drogue parachutes. Now the heat shield is continuing to work to slow the vehicle down. That entry period, the Dragon spacecraft went from orbital velocity about 17,500 miles per hour down to about 350 miles per hour. So that really gives you a sense of why that plasma builds up on the exterior of the capsule, thanks to the heat shield and the work that it does. Those drogue parachutes will slow it down from 350 to about 119 miles per hour. We can see
15 kilometers. Brace for drogue window.
we can see seat rotation happening inside the capsule. Great to get those first views of our crew members. Once again, the capsules are going about 350 miles per hour when the drogues are deployed. Those drogue parachutes that we manufacture here in-house are going to slow the spacecraft down to 119 miles per hour. And that is when we will see the main parachutes deploy, and that occurs about 6,000 feet above the ocean's surface.
And we are expecting drogue deployment at 2:53 p.m. Pacific, so we should see it any second now. And there you
Let's
are
go,
getting a
folks.
great
Check
view
it out.
of
That's
Crew
them,
9
right?
inside
Holy
Dragon
shit.
Freedom as it returns back to Earth. We are awaiting the drogue deploys.
Here we go.
This
Here we
view
go.
coming from the
Hit the like. Hit the
WB-57
heart.
high altitude plane. And there
Oh.
you see it on your screen, drogue deployment.
Drogue descent rate nominal.
Yeah.
You can
That's
hear the
right.
crowd
Let's
here.
go.
On 2 healthy drogues.
The crowd here very excited as Dragon Freedom continues to
Yeah.
make its way back to planet Earth.
Next up, we'll stand by for the main deployment of the parachutes. The mains are quite a bit larger. You'll be able to notice the difference
Let's
on
see
your
those hearts,
screen once
folks.
they deploy, and they continue
Here we go.
to
Here we go.
ensure
Splashdown. They
that
must
the
be
Dragon
so happy right now.
spacecraft slows down even
Well,
further.
when they land.
As we mentioned, Freedom will be traveling 16 miles per hour when it splashes down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida, here at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon. And there we go.
We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
People are going wild.
That view was from inside.
Freedom copy.
That view was from inside one of the buckets where the parachutes are located. So we see a great view there of the reefing on those parachutes, and as those main parachutes.
Thank
begin
God
to
Elon
float
Musk
forward,
invested in
4
SpaceX.
beautiful, healthy names. Now awaiting visuals of Splashdown.
Freedom. 1,000.
We'll start to hear Commander Nick Hague.
Copy.
Here we go.
1,000.
As we heard right there, Commander Nick Hague will be calling out the altitude of the Dragon capsule from here on out. Landing in water is simpler and provides more margin.
Don't forget to
against
subscribe,
unlikely
folks. Subscribe.
parachute
Let us know
issues.
what you're feeling right now in the comments.
You can see those parachutes continuing to slow the Dragon capsule down.
And if you're just joining us, you're looking at
800 meters.
a live view of Crew 9 just minutes away from splashing down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Splashdown 2 minutes from now at 2:57 p.m. Pacific. We do have 4 healthy mains really doing the job there.
Yes.
Just
Are we
breathtaking
gonna see them come
views
out?
of a calm, glass-like ocean off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Crew 9 just minutes away from splashing down.
This is really such an incredible shot. That
Copy,
was
600.
That was a live view from our recovery
And
vessel.
her on the far right.
Megan, which is stationed a couple miles away
Where is she?
from the
I'm
splashdown
mostly
site.
interested in the lady because she has
You can
awesome
see the
hair.
crew there using their
This is badass,
restraints as resting places for
And
their
thanks for
arms.
spending it with
They
with
were
us here
in
on Nerd
space
Report.
moments ago, so their arms were able to float freely.
400 meters.
This is a gorgeous bluebird day here that we have for the splashdown of Crew 9. It's incredible to think that the Dragon capsule just minutes ago was going over 17,000 miles per hour, and now gently coasting to a soft splashdown.
200.
Copy, 200
Haters
meters.
are. There's
Brace
probably
for
so many
splashdown.
mad people right now. Woof.
As you can see there on your screen, continuing to monitor progress of the Dragon spacecraft. And we're going to stand by for splashdown located in the Gulf of America off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah. There we go. It's going to touch down. Oh my God. This is crazy. This one's crazy.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
Oh. All right. I'm teary-eyed, man. I'm teary-eyed. I swear. Oh my God.
And SpaceX Freedom, Splashdown.
Oh, that really got me.
Good main release.
That one got me, folks.
Copy, splashdown. We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch, Sunny, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
SpaceX, thank you.
It is an amazing,
got me.
what a ride. I see a capsule full of grins ear to ear.
Oh, that was crazy, man. That got me at the end, folks. You saw it here on Nerd Report.
As you can see on your screen, we have visual confirmation of splashdown. Dragon Freedom has returned home, and NASA astronauts.
System safety verifications are in progress. We'll report back when recovery personnel are en route.
Yep. They're not going to give them. They're not going to give us credit. Everyone that worked here.
Section 2, 4.800.
Everyone that participated deserves props.
And looking for your word. Permission is necessary.
In the distance, we can see the recovery vessel making its way.
Copy, you're in section 2 for the environmental assessment in 4.800. That is not necessary today.
Understand. Raise and buzz.
For us older people, I'm getting
to have communications
Planet of the Apes vibes. What if they
Nick
return
Commander
to a
Crew
Planet of the
Dragon
Apes?
Freedom, which just splashed down 2 minutes ago off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Dragon Freedom has returned home with NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Sunny Williams, Butch Wilmore, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbunoff. They're back on Earth after approximately 17 hours of a return journey from space.
Yeah, is that all burned up?
The SpaceX recovery ship and team have been waiting for Dragon's splashdown, and they will now make their way to the splashdown location. The teams have been ready and waiting about 3 nautical miles away, so it's going to take them about 30 minutes or so to make their way
and
to
SpaceX Freedom. Pretty sure we're in stable 1.
Copy, stable 1. We see the same.
It's going to take about 30 minutes for the recovery team to make their way over to Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander, who are still seated and secured inside that Dragon spacecraft there on your screen. Incredible views there of that thermal protection system, or TPS. That Dragon capsule was pristine, white color before it departed the station, and we can see how the reentry phase, the thermal protection system did its job. Now, if you're wondering what that hole, that like bucket area is, that is underneath the side hatch. That is where the
Dude,
main
I'll talk as much as I want. Get the hell out of here.
parachutes were stored. So when we saw the Dragon capsule docked at station, it looked very different. The panel that protects and covers the main parachutes, that was still intact, as well as the panels that enclose where the drogue parachutes are located. We can see those fast
Freedom.
boats.
SpaceX is go for
Oh shit!
personnel
Where they go?
approach. Expect personnel
Here they come!
alongside in the next
Oh
few
my
minutes.
god! This is crazier.
Freedom copies.
We can see those fast boats. We weren't kidding when we said they were fast. While it does take about 30 minutes for the main recovery vessel to make its way over to the capsule, these fast boats will be doing a couple of things simultaneously. A couple of them are going to be working to retrieve the parachutes that you see in the background there of this drone shot. Those parachutes will be retrieved from the ocean surface. We want to make sure we are able to pull those out. The recovery vessel there closest to the spacecraft is going to be performing some safety checks. We can see there they're using an instrument that is basically working to detect if there are any hypergolic vapors or fumes that are still residing in and or around the Draco thruster nozzles or outlets.
Yeah, I think it's too late. I peed myself.
Necessary for on-orbit burns to maneuver the spacecraft. Unfortunately, those hypergolics are unable to be breathed. They are toxic, and so this team here is doing those initial safety checks to make sure that it is safe for the rest of the recovery team to approach the spacecraft. They're also
I think this may be the best thing I've ever broadcasted.
Residuals from the pyros are safe and are not going to cause any issues. We can see the team working their way around the spacecraft to
anybody that talks shit about Elon Musk, don't even debate them, folks.
All of those Draco
after watching this, just point at them and laugh. Because they're not never going to be.
As we continue to await the recovery of our Dragon spacecraft with NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Sonny Williams, Butch Wilmore, and Roscosmos
but this is pretty
cosmonaut
badass.
Alexander Gorbanov
Cleaning up
inside.
the Biden
Dragon has
administration mess.
continuously, autonomously completed several steps to safe itself following splashdown. We are continuing to see Dragon in what is known as stable 1 configuration. That's kind of the ideal configuration following splashdown. It's upright, and the Dragon capsule's in the right configuration for it to be hoisted into the recovery vessel Megan, which you do see a little ways off in your screen approaching. Dragon will continue to remain live on air with you through that recovery process, all the way through the point where the crew is extracted from the Dragon spacecraft. Now, if you are just joining us, the mission has gone smoothly so far. Dragon successfully splashed down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida at 2:57 p.m. Pacific, 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time this afternoon.
Approximately 17 hours prior to splashdown, Dragon autonomously undocked from the International Space Station, completed a series of departure burns, jettisoned its trunk section, and performed its final burn, the Deorbit Burn. This placed the Dragon spacecraft on a trajectory toward Tallahassee, Florida. Dragon successfully re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, followed by deployment of its parachutes to slow the spacecraft down to a gentle splashdown. We're now going to follow the
Freedom. Hypergol sweeps and unfired ordnance checks are nominal. Rigging is in progress. Approximately 25 minutes until capsule lift. Stand by for PMC with SpaceX flight surgeon.
They're going to wait 25 minutes? They must be so over it.
And so what we did just hear there was communications that those hypergol checks were complete. They didn't find any of that upon those checks, so we'll continue to move through the timeline. Next up is a process called rigging, which you see happening right now on your screen. This is when a SpaceX recovery personnel actually works to climb aboard the capsule and work through procedures ahead of lifting onto the nest of the recovery vessel Megan. We heard it's going to be about 25 minutes or so until that lift actually takes place.
So 25 minutes until they open it? Is that what it is?
Okay, Freedom, the next call will be from the SpaceX flight surgeon on Dragon to Ground Private.
Understand. Thank you.
Callouts there indicating that the crew will have the opportunity to do a quick check-in with the SpaceX flight surgeon. This is standard procedure for every Dragon spacecraft when it returns to Earth. It's just an initial check-in, make sure everybody is doing okay. They will also have another check-in with the flight surgeon once they are on board that recovery vessel that you see there in the background. We can now see that SpaceX recovery team member they're on top of the Dragon spacecraft. They are going to be working to install plugs in the Draco thrusters to ensure that none of those and to ensure that no more hypergolic fumes or vapors come out from the spacecraft. They'll also place harnessing around the spacecraft that are required in order to lift it out of the water. Go ahead, Sandra.
Continuing to get some views of the recovery personnel, both the main recovery vessel Megan, as well as some of those fast boats that we've discussed.
My friend just texted me. He goes, "Astronauts rescued. Elon Musk is
weather
Batman."
Was pristine. We were able to get undocked from the International Space Station as expected at 10:05 p.m. Pacific time yesterday evening, and Crew Dragon has since completed steps ahead of its splashdown at 2:57 p.m. Pacific, and we're now stepping through procedures to get Dragon hoisted up onto the Megan recovery vessel and get the crew extracted out of the spacecraft. And you did see some of the parachutes that were near the spacecraft. Upon detection of landing, Dragon automatically releases those main parachutes to prevent wind from pulling the spacecraft. Dragon then automatically safes any pyrotechnics that may still be present on the vehicle and may automatically perform additional minor system reconfigurations. The astronauts will remain seated and in their suits at this point, but the onboard air conditioning keeps things temperature controlled inside the spacecraft so the crew remains comfortable, and the communication systems.
Freedom, SpaceX, ComCheck.
SpaceX, this is Freedom. Loud and clear.
Copy that, Freedom. Have you loud and clear as well, and Dragon to Ground is no longer private.
Understand, thank you.
All right.
As we saw there on the screen, we have a couple of fast boats in the recovery fleet that have quickly moved into the splashdown location. They are being followed by one of the main recovery vessels, which will move into position upwind of the spacecraft. The two fast boats have very specific roles. Excuse me. The first approach is focused on immediate safety inspection, as we saw. They do this for spacecraft integrity and checking for any presence of those hypergolic propellant vapors. And this ensures that it is safe for the recovery vessel to approach Dragon. Once Dragon is cleared for full approach, as we heard is the case today, the team begins rigging the spacecraft for water recovery by the recovery ship. The second fast boat is responsible for parachute recovery and also serves as a redundant boat to the first one that makes the initial approach to the Dragon spacecraft. As we saw a little bit earlier, we were also able to see one of the recovery team members get on a jet ski to help gather up the parachutes that were automatically detached from the Dragon spacecraft upon splashdown.
And it will take a little over 10 minutes for the recovery crew to complete their safety checks. Once they complete, the team will begin preparing Dragon to be lifted. And as you see, they are preparing for that to take place at this point. As part of the preparation for this lift, one member of the recovery team has climbed on top of the spacecraft already so they can attach Dragon's hoist rings and connect to the lifting lines.
Are they going to actually?
It'll take us less than an hour to raise Dragon to the recovery boat and remove the crew from the spacecraft. After medical checkouts, the crew will return to land within 4 hours by helicopter. And if no additional medical assistance
oh my God, we got a raid. Steph the Ultra Nerd raided.
And depart for Houston.
Steph the Ultra Nerd, thank you so much. I just saw a raid by Steph the Ultra Nerd. Hey, Steph, you want to come in? Hold on, invite Steph if you want to come in. If not, I understand. Thanks for the raid, Steph the Ultra Nerd. Steph, if you want to come in, the link is right there. Oh, Ann, thanks for the support. 5 gifted memberships.
And as we continue to
Hearts for Ann Rasmussen,
Dragon
hearts
to
for
be
Steph
hoisted
the Ultra
up
Nerd.
onto the ship, we have a very special treat. NASA Public Affairs Officer Jaden Jennings, who is actually on the recovery vessel and had
Let's
a
give some
bird's eye
love
view
to
of
Ann
the
Rasmussen
splashdown today. Jaden, how
Steph
are
the
you?
Ultra
How was the
Nerd.
view from the recovery vessel?
We're watching the vessel
Hi, Sandra. How
filled
do you
with
hear me?
aliens.
I've got you loud and clear, Jaden. It's so great to hear
Being
you.
rescued finally.
Awesome. So Splashdown, Sandra, was nothing
Freedom,
short of
be advised.
spectacular.
We are transitioning the
It was
forward link.
spectacular.
Com will
That's
be
it.
unavailable.
Make sure to
for
like and
approximately
subscribe,
5 minutes.
folks. We do horizontal videos sometimes as well, but
Freedom comes.
thanks for the again. If you came in from Steph the Ultra Nerd's channel,
Thanks so much,
do me a
Jaden. We
favor
did
and
just have
introduce
some
yourself.
communication.
Go to hell, Meghan Markle. We don't like you here either. Let us know in the comments.
5-minute period where we won't be able to hear from the crew. So please go ahead. Tell us, how was the view from the recovery vessel?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was mentioning earlier, Splashdown was nothing short of spectacular. And we were stationed about 1.5 nautical miles away from the splashdown zone and had great visuals here on the recovery vessel Megan. We actually saw a little of the smoke trail as the spacecraft was coming in. And then moments later, we spotted those drogue
You
shoots,
subbed,
and this was
Ollie.
quickly
Welcome.
followed by 4
Hearts
healthy
for
white
Ann
and
if you
orange
became a
main
member.
parachutes. We then tracked Dragon all the way down as it slowly propelled into the ocean. And I think I speak for all of us on the ship when I say a new core memory was made today, and we are looking forward to having Crew 9 on board with us a little later.
Jaden, that is amazing. Now, obviously, we are watching it here on camera, and the landing conditions look pretty good, but how was it from your perspective? What is the sea state out there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've had optimal conditions for Splashdown, and today it is sunny and 63
It looks
degrees
beautiful
outside
there
right now with clear skies,
Oh, look
light
at that.
winds, and
You're about
calm
to-
seas.
What
The
do you
sea,
think? What would you
looks
be feeling?
absolutely
This
beautiful
would be
right
the hardest
now,
part.
and
Karen,
light blue with the sun
has gifted
reflecting from
5
it. And
memberships.
hey, I think the crew's going to like what they feel weather-wise on this picture-perfect day for Splashdown
Hearts
off
for
the coast of
Karen.
Tallahassee.
That makes a 10.
Thanks so much, Jaden. It
membership
certainly looks
today.
like a
Thank you
beautiful
so
day.
much.
Can you tell us a little bit about the journey of the recovery forces to get to this point?
Sure. So one unique aspect of this recovery was the onboard training on station conducted for Butch and Sunny to ensure they were ready to return on a Dragon spacecraft. That training covered all aspects of their return,
NASA
including nominal
and the
and
Biden
contingency
administration
departures, deorbit
lagged
burn,
on
splashdown, and
rescuing these
post-landing
people. They
ops,
failed.
which is what this team is preparing for now.
Almost like they didn't give a shit. These people almost died. It took an independent company, SpaceX, a billionaire, to invest in this to rescue them.
About 2 hours before splashdown, they deployed those fast boats and jet
Okay? The billionaire's name is Elon Musk. Have you guys heard of him? They're putting swastikas on his cars.
An hour and a half before splashdown and landed on top of the helicopter pad on the Megan. And the teams have been working diligently across their respective disciplines this week, executing what can only be described, in my point of view, as a logistical masterpiece, just ensuring every detail has been in place for Crew 9's return.
That is such great news. I'm so glad that you're able there to
Yeah,
experience
you're vomiting
it
at
in
Elon Musk,
person.
but these
Now,
people
can you
would
tell us a
still be
little
in
bit
space if it wasn't
about
for
what's
Elon
next
Musk.
to retrieve the crew for the recovery personnel on
Emily,
board?
sorry to say that.
Yeah, Kate. So coming up next, Dragon will be hoisted into the on-deck translation system, or the nest, at the aft end of the ship, and then will be translated pretty quickly towards that egress platform. We'll perform another series of safety checks as final precautionary measures, just to make sure there are no hypergolic vapors present before opening that side hatch. And then once that side hatch of the spacecraft is open, the crew will be assisted out of the capsule one by one from NASA and SpaceX.
He got
Freedom,
the job
SpaceX,
done.
com check.
There we go.
Freedom's got you loud and clear.
He kicked you off X, Joe? That sucks.
Thanks, Nick. I got you loud and clear as well. We have completed our forward link transition.
All right, look at this guy, Spider-Man. Now we have Spider-Man climbing in. He does deserve. Everyone here, every time, make sure you add whoever reports this, who owns SpaceX, okay? Now, people are going to hate on them no matter what. The haters going to hate. Don't even debate them. Just point and
Jaden,
laugh.
if you did just want to go ahead and let us know what is next to retrieve the crew, we are continuing to get some great views on our screen, but I know you have an even better view yourself.
Oh, yeah, Sandra, this view is absolutely unbeatable. So just to kind of finish off what I was saying is once that side hatch of the spacecraft is open, that crew will be assisted out of the capsule one by one from NASA and SpaceX medical personnel, where they will then head to the med bay.
Yeah,
and after those medical checks, they will get on that first helicopter out and arrive at the airport, where they will then board a NASA plane and then head back to Houston, Texas at the Johnson Space Center to begin their post-flight period. And we're eager to see the Crew 9 astronauts back on Earth, and we'll keep you updated on every moment of this process. With that, I'll toss it back over to you guys in Hawthorne.
Thank you so much. That was Jaden Jennings, NASA Public Affairs Officer, who watched Freedom splash down.
This must be the
from
worst
the recovery
part,
vessel.
though,
Megan, thanks so much,
here.
Jaden. So we are continuing to get these great views on our screen here of Freedom. As we mentioned, it splashed down at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. The recovery personnel are continuing to step through procedures to hoist Dragon onto the recovery vessel.
Who came from Steph the Alternate Nerds channel?
Just
Let me
how
know in the
close
comments.
Megan is at this point, and that's that helicopter pad that Jaden was just discussing, where the crew will fly off of onto the coast of Florida, and then eventually they'll fly back to Houston.
Just underneath that helicopter pad is that translation deck where we will see the nest once it is loaded up with the Dragon spacecraft on board. The nest will be translated to the forward end of the recovery vessel, and that is where our Crew 9 team members will egress from the Dragon spacecraft. Now, here on your screen, we can see dolphins, actually, who want to come and play with Dragon. Now, one of the fast boats there in place, working to assist the recovery team member. It's incredible. I just love these views. We really see them even better.
What country, city, or state are you all watching from? Let me know in the comments.
Work in tandem to step through each step. To step through each operation. Obviously they're getting quick assists from the honorary part of the recovery team, those dolphins in the water there. Now
there's dolphins in the water. I mean,
that is crawling around the Dragon spacecraft. Earlier, we saw a view where it was like a spider monkey pose. We can see that individual now standing in the bucket where the main parachutes were stored while Dragon was on orbit. Obviously, those main parachutes were utilized for Splashdown today. They were deployed and cut from the Dragon capsule. And one of the other fast boats of the recovery team working to pull those out of the water. Now, the recovery team member that is there working on top of the Dragon capsule. Earlier, we saw that person performing safety checks. Now we can see some harnessing being placed around the capsule. This harnessing is what will be used to lift the Dragon capsule out of the water and onto the recovery vessel. Wow, we got a cute little pod of dolphins. It wasn't just
look at the dolphins, man.
I mean, that water just looks beautiful. We had ideal splashdown parameters today. Obviously, wave height, ne'er a concern. The weather is beautiful, as Jaden mentioned, in the 60s, sunny. Looking forward to seeing Crew 9 exit the capsule here shortly once they get hoisted onto the recovery vessel, Megan.
We can see that recovery vessel slowly but surely closing the distance there between dolphin cam back again.
Dolphin.
We can see that the Dragon capsule and the recovery vessel, that distance is closing. Again, this is just one more step as we continue.
Are they going to actually open it like right there so we can see them come out?
And we anticipate the lift of the Dragon capsule to occur here in just a few minutes. Now, once all of the rigging is on the capsule and it's hooked up to the recovery vessel, we will see the hydraulic arm, which is that kind of like bridge-like structure there at the aft end of the recovery vessel. We'll see that articulate backwards, and that's a good sign that we're getting even closer to pulling the capsule out of the water. It will then move forward, and the capsule will be placed inside of what you can see there is basically a basket. We call it the nest, dragon nest, where that's where the capsule will be placed in order for it to be translated to the forward end of the vessel and for the astronauts to egress.
And before that does take place, we'll have potentially views of the rigger go ahead and jump off of the spacecraft there.
That typically occurs when the spacecraft is a little bit closer to the recovery vessel, and we usually get a really good view of that particular operation from one of the onboard cameras from the recovery vessel. That is an operation that I have a lot of respect and admiration for, that individual that does that.
So again, Dragon
Hearts for everybody in the comments. Hearts for everybody in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, folks. We're almost at 74,000 subscribers.
Coming into view as well.
Are they going to open it?
You are just joining us. Crew
Hey,
9.
oh, there you are. Oh my God, I was looking down. Hold on a second. Hold on, let me get
PM Pacific
What's up,
time
Steph?
with NASA.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. We got dolphins. We got. I mean, it couldn't be better. You know about this, right? The astronauts that were stranded in space.
Yeah, so I'm aware of the astronauts that were stranded in space, that Elon Musk had actually offered the Biden administration, you know, SpaceX to save them, and they said no. And now that Donald Trump's in power, he's like, of course.
I don't understand, man. Like right here, I hate to. Yeah, I don't want to make it political, but there's two kinds of people in America, it seems right now. Those who like invest in the future and technology and innovation and love it and support that, and others who are literally carving out swastikas on Tesla cars and encouraging it. It's so ridiculous. I'm so pissed seeing people do that. But look, these got rescued, these people, and are they going to open it right now? What's going to go on?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
There's also, and I've just seen this on Twitter, there's this campaign whereby this group is doxing Tesla owners in America.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Like, oh, they own a Tesla, therefore they support Elon Musk and Donald Trump, therefore they need to be persecuted. Like, that's nuts.
It's a hate crime. It's a hate crime. You know what I mean?
As I said before,
it's a hate crime. Well, you know, that's what the Second Amendment's here for. Okay? That's all I'm saying. So, Merry Christmas. Someone's going to get hurt, and it's not going to be those sissies. Anyways, this thing's amazing right here. This is what billionaires should do, is invest. These are the billionaires I like, the ones that invest in the country and stuff like that. Not the ones that sit on their money, obviously, but this is happening thanks to SpaceX, NASA, of course, all the people helping. Look at this, Steph. Look at this.
Wow.
Dolphins and all.
Yes. I'm actually going to what was it? I'm going abroad next month, and I can't wait because I need a holiday.
You're not coming here, are you coming here?
No. Maybe later on in the year. I'll talk about that later on, mate.
Well, you let me know, because we're gonna paint the picture, how they say anywhere. We're gonna go out and
for translation to the Egress
vlog it and stuff, and so we could plan it like last time. You know, we had a really good time last time.
Exactly, yeah. And there's still so much more I want to do in LA that I didn't get the chance to do last time. But yeah, next month I'm going abroad, and I will actually be like swimming with dolphins and whales, and I'm just like so hyped for that. I've never done anything like that before.
Maybe we should do like a Catalina Island, you know? It's right here in California. Catalina Island's right here off California.
Yeah, literally like next door to it.
Yeah. So okay, if they open the docks now, man, that's gonna be insane.
One of the recovery crew members.
But they're not going to be able to
does
walk or
some
anything,
checks
right? The
and,
gravity's
we'll
no
also see
gravity,
some
zero
posing,
gravity,
obviously,
muscle
the
mass,
spacecraft
muscle
splashdown in
mass
saltwater.
um,
Saltwater is
has
corrosive,
deteriorated,
and we
obviously, at
wanna
least I'm
try and
assuming I'm
rinse
no
out
expert.
much of
And
the salt
you know
water as
what? Those
possible
organs
to
being pressed
reduce
up
that corrosion
against you, that's not
on
how
the
humans
metallic
evolved on
structures.
Earth.
So we
So
can see
I'm
some guidance
afraid
being
there may be
provided,
some
really steering the
health issues
spacecraft
with these astronauts,
properly
unfortunately.
into the Dragon's
But
nest.
my gosh, I hope they're able to attend to them and they come back to 100% health,
It's been
right?
30 minutes since
They will get the best medical treatment on freaking planet Earth.
the recovery vessel. Megan,
Quite literally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now that they're back on planet Earth where they belong. So yeah, I wouldn't.
Until this point as well.
Have you ever watched the
And
movie
Biden
Planet of
looks
the
like
Apes?
the positioning wasn't quite right, so they are working on repositioning.
Did you ever watch
the
Planet of the
capsule
Apes?
now.
Of course.
Remember
one?
when the third one where the apes came out of
And
the
with that,
hatch
the team is just going
and
to
the humans were like, "Oh, what happened?" And there were apes coming out of the. That's what I'm reminded of. What if these come out of the? They come out of the hatch and they're on the Planet of the Apes,
So the team is now going to step through the procedures to
or they look.
ensure
They're the
that
apes
takes
themselves.
Wow.
Now that would make this interesting live stream a little bit much more fun. I'm just saying.
Is unable to
Come on, Planet of the Apes, let's go.
Ultimately,
sure
we're
that
nerds.
the
The
Dragon
nerd is
capsule is
embedded in the
properly
name, so we're
seated
gonna
there
think
in
of shit
that
no one
nest.
else does. So as this thing is happening, we're thinking of Planet of the Apes.
I do it all the time on my channel, mate. I'm like extra nerd points for you guys if you get that reference. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is they're putting it on a boat, but I don't see a bed or anything unless there's a bed in there, like to roll them out. I doubt. They must be so anxious to get out right now, right?
In the nest, we'll
Of
probably
course, they'll be anxious to get out, but you know they will have an element of training that has mentally kind of prepared them for this moment anyway.
As I mentioned,
So they're just going through the motions, I would presume, at this point.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but being in space for how many months? 9 months or more than that? I don't know if there's any preparation that can get you ready for that.
views on your screen of Crew 9,
I
which is
understand that. I heard it's over a year, but I mean,
Sunny
uh,
which will
you know, either way, yes, will they be happy that they're home? Of course. However, they got extra time to be in space.
Get that space.
That in itself is, even though, you know, it shouldn't have happened, it's pretty amazing
and tweaks
to have that time in space and wake up every day and look out the window and literally look at planet Earth and be surrounded by the stars and be in orbit.
Once the space
Like, that's got to be an amazing experience to have.
Dragon will
Not a good one though. Not
Yeah.
a good one. No, I mean, imagine like the anxiety that would kick in and mental. If they're able to do interviews and they sound halfway normal, like after this, without any mental instabilities, I'm going to be shocked, honestly.
Really?
Well, Steph, man, that's like every day thinking that maybe this is your last day.
Call out there.
I mean, come on. They're inside a little. How big could this? I don't know. The space station. How big is it? Is it a little room?
This helps ensure that
I couldn't be able to take that. My anxiety would have taken me over.
But again, they're trained to be able to deal with that up there. They're trained to have long extended stays and all that lot in such an environment that they signed up for. We've known astronauts that have been up in the space station that have been there for a very extended period of time, and they've come back down to planet Earth, and you know, they've done interviews and they've been absolutely fine. I wouldn't be
surprised. As long as this?
That's right. And there are a variety of individuals on board.
Guys in the chat, let me know how long these astronauts have been up in the space station for. Because my understanding is that it's been over a year. And I know that there was one astronaut that had been up there.
It is returning.
For, I think like a year and a half, 2 years or something like that, unless I've dreamt it. And they were fine. They came down and they now do press tours and all that lot. If I'm not mistaken.
All of our dragons.
Well, I think a key note though is that they were prepared to be there 8 days That's the thing. So it's like if you're going to take an 8-day trip and then all of a sudden, you're there for a year. I don't know if that had any effect.
We'll
but real
stand
quick,
by to,
Snowflake,
see
thank you.
Dragon Freedom
Snowfire, sorry, not
translate or
Snowflake. I
scooch up
apologize.
a little bit
Thanks
closer
for all
to
the coverage.
camera
Thank you for
angle that
being
we're
here.
seeing right
Because
here.
honestly,
And then
this
teams
coverage
will
doesn't
step through
exist
procedures to
without
get
you
that
all
side
coming in
hatch
here and
opened.
just
You see it right in the dead of center
hang
of
out
your
with us. And
screen
also
there.
a
It's kind of
super
that
sticker by
rectangular
Shelly.
shape.
Thanks
It
for
has
always
not been
supporting
opened
Shelly.
since Crew 9,
Snowfire
which
and
included
Shelly. We got
Nick
Steph
Hague
the
and
Ultra
Alexander
Nerd
Gorbanov
with the
launch
raid
back in September
here.
from the
And something
Kennedy
that
Space
Meghan
Center in
Markle is
Florida.
never
So that
going to
will be the very
accomplish
first time that
is
that
going
hatch is
out into
opened.
outer space. Of course, we
Once
want her
docked to the
to.
International
And
Space
maybe we could.
Station through the
Of
top
course.
hatch, which
Push him into the rocket yourself and light the
the hatch that they actually
do that we sent.
go ahead and get inside the International Space Station.
All right, if they open it here, I'm gonna cry again. This is just, man. Only 2 people on the crew, right? Only 2 people there.
So as we get a little closer to that hatch opening procedure, you might
Oh, the
start to
hatch
see
is
more
opening.
individuals come into frame for some of that support.
The
The
hatch is
ship has
opening.
a maximum capacity of a little over 40 people on board, and it takes a variety of different roles, as we've discussed.
Look at how
to
calm
support.
the crew is.
Also
Just
on
like
board
walking.
is the chief of the astronaut
children.
office for NASA. That's Joe Acaba.
Ladder here. It's like the planet's watching these people. And unfortunately, I think people outside America are more excited about this than actual Americans. You know what I mean? Not me included, but like, man, we really don't have pride. You know what I mean? You don't have pride in your own home.
Now, while we are standing
You're not
by
gonna keep it
for
up, man.
translation,
Yeah, here we go. So Emily Cheetah, thank you. Saying, I just looked online. The longest an astronaut has ever been in space is 33 months. I knew it was like a couple of years. And he's come back down, and I'm sure it's the same astronaut. He's now doing talk about it, and he's absolutely fine. You've got to understand, in terms of these particular astronauts that are now back down on Earth whilst they're up in the International Space Station, of course they won't have been left on their own in terms of their mental health and their requirements during this whole situation. All of it will have been tended for by NASA and the government. They needed someone to talk to because psychologically, they couldn't handle it. There would have been someone for them to speak to. Up in the International Space Station, they would have still got top-notch medical kind of treatment, whether that's physical or mental.
Gorbanov
Yeah.
is completing his very first space
Oh,
flight
come
on
on,
this
man.
mission.
Open it. I'd be like, open
Completed
this shit.
171
You and I would be
days
kicking
in
this.
space
Would you
along
be-
with, Nick Hague.
I'm expecting Planet of the Apes now. Anything less really disappointed me.
Did I mess this up?
You're definitely effed up then, mate.
for those of you that have just
Come on. I'm still Planet of the Apes. Come on. Fingers crossed. Everything crossed for Planet of the Apes, guys. Let's go.
a beautiful splashdown of Dragon Freedom.
An AI program that can actually do that.
Well, someone's probably
They had an
doing it
on-time
already.
splashdown
100%.
at
100%.
Planet of the Apes coming out.
5:57 p.m. Pacific
There's
time.
no way.
We can see that the
Could you see this picture
spacecraft-
on screen?
Translation.
Yeah, I can do.
Okay, hold on. There it is. There it is, folks. We got
We
him.
can see
Got him.
that spacecraft was
There it is,
successfully
folks.
recovered
Exclusive
from
nerd report and
the
stuff. The Ultra
ocean
Nerd
surface and is
image.
now
You
being
saw it here
washed
first.
with fresh water.
Great film, by
as
the way. Great
obviously they
film.
splashed down in salt water,
Underestimated.
so we're trying to rinse
The
off as much
sequel
of
to
that
Planet
salt
of the
water as possible. And we
Anyway,
can
let's
see
get a
the
little bit more
spacecraft
serious for a minute.
continuing to move
Oh, here we go.
to
There we
the
go.
recovery deck.
Which is Lewis's way of telling me off live on
No,
stream.
I wouldn't,
Stop being stupid.
I wouldn't do that. We got Steph, the Ultra Nerd, in the house. My name is Lewis. Here on Nerd Report, we're watching history being made. Hatch is about to open. Open that hatch. They're going to come out running. Get me the F out of here. I want some McDonald's or whatever the hell they want.
Let's go.
I want some
Thanks,
portos.
Nick. It's been an honor.
This is a pretty exciting moment coming up. We are working to open the side hatch One thing that may not be obvious from just looking at the spacecraft here is
The
that
hatch is about to
this
open.
side hatch that
Do you know what's got in my head now? We've got this series called "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here." I don't know if you guys have seen it similar, but it's where
this side hatch is what is
it up and they go to the Australian jungle and they've got to eat like insects and do these really scary kind of trials to have good meals and treats and all this lot, right? And the only way that they can get out of it is turning around and saying, "I'm a celebrity, get me out of here." And so I've got this thing in my head now of, "I'm an astronaut, get me out of here." Yeah. For anyone that
I think there is a show like that. I just don't watch the reality shows. I haven't been watching. Haven't had time to watch anything really. Did you watch Cobra Kai?
Open is a
Dude, of course.
Okay, good. Because I haven't spoken to you in a while. I loved it. Wasn't perfect, but I loved it.
Procedures take place.
I loved it. It got me teary-eyed at the end. It got me in all the feels. It was wonderful. Spoiler alert, I mean, it's been out now for a while, so if you haven't watched it,
go watch it. Yeah.
But the whole kind of redemption of Crease was amazing. It being like a full circle for Johnny Lawrence was absolutely amazing. Like, I was there just shouting at the TV, being like, "Go, kick his ass, get it done!" Like, I was proper into it, and it takes a special something to get a reaction like that out of me when I'm watching a series. So yeah, Cobra Kai, I absolutely love it. I'm sad that it's come to an end, but
yeah,
I'm watching Severance. Oh my goodness, have you been watching that, mate?
What is it?
Severance is like the #1 TV series in the world.
No, I have not. I'll watch that. Just do me a favor. Send me a telegram reminding me. I'll start watching it.
Safely.
Okay.
I'm happy I was able. I think I was the first person that introduced you to Cobra Kai, and I'm glad to give you a good time because
that's right.
It was,
and we did hear the go
it was
for that
cheesy
hatch
fun,
opening, so we're just a couple
with
minutes away from being able
great
to see
emotional
that.
moments,
we might
and
be able to
just
get the
it
chance
had
to see
something
a couple
there
of
for
views
all
inside
ages.
of
And I
the
can't
Dragon
wait
and
to see
the
what they
crew
do with the
following their
movie
Splashdown.
because now they have Cobra Kai
Opening that
Legacy
side hatch,
with Jackie
isn't
Chan.
quite like
That I'm gonna think it's probably gonna be good because Ralph Macchio does not like making junk. By the way, look at the hatch.
As
oh wow.
We'll now see them open that.
Oh, we're proper getting a close up here of them coming out. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, here they go.
BMW M4 says, "What's Severance about?" Good question. and I'm not taking the piss there. You just got to watch it.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh my God.
Oh, here we go.
There's no one in there.
And there you have it. The side hatch is open for the first time since September.
Where is everyone? We're watching history here with Steph the Alter Nerd and Nerd Report.
We can see some of.
If you haven't subscribed to Steph, head over there and subscribe. She's got a couple channels, also political channel. Political Nerd is awesome.
Protect the edge of the side hatch.
I'm very proud of it.
From any
look at this. They're taking pictures.
They're taking photos.
Oh wow!
The side hatch seal. This is part of the standard operation for recovery. These photos will get saved into our procedure. We'll then install that protective frame around.
I wonder how the lady knows everything that's going on. Are they like feeding information on a monitor, or she's an expert?
The edges of it incur no damage.
Feeding her information.
Are coming out.
Or she's an expert, or she already has like a list of the procedure step by step, and is just going through that.
So a recovery team member that went
it is
inside.
Slim. Someone said slim. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to fit there.
There are now 5 people on board the Dragon spacecraft.
Man, that's going to be hard to get them out of there. Yeah, see, if Steph and I were stuck there and I go first, I would have gotten.
If you are just joining us,
if we were in there, I would have gotten first, gotten stuck in the door, and Steph would have
coast of Tallahassee, Florida, at 2:57 p.m.
Get out of here!
Your backside being like, "Get the hell
out!" Megan, and the hatch is open. The major milestone that we'll see is when the crew will actually egress or exit the spacecraft. But before that, they'll continue the recovery personnel will
exit.
to install that protective
There's 5 people in there. Yeah,
area
there's the whole
around that
crew,
and then remove the
2,
footrest.
and then the
So
3
we're a
people I
couple
guess
minutes away from
assisting.
seeing the crew egress, but not too long away.
We'll probably see
If they
those
come out and
progress
wave, I'm gonna
being
be like,
handed out
man,
here
I'm gonna
in
go out
the
there and
near
jog
future.
around the
As I
block.
mentioned before,
You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna feel like
of course,
such a
we gotta
loser.
get a well-documented photo.
If they come out,
These astronauts have been stranded up there for 9 months.
Sure,
a long
there
time.
are 4
A
slots
long time.
on board right
They
now.
have exercise
We
routines they
did
go
hear
through,
that
but
report
nothing
out from Commander Nick Hague
equals
following
real gravity.
Splashdown that there were
And
four
plus,
force
look, the
miles
organs
as
are
far
being
as he
pushed
could
at the
see.
wrong
Yeah,
direction.
capsule
You know,
full
they're
of
being pushed
grins.
up. I'm sure they have something. Is there a way to get rid of gravity?
Generally speaking,
Have gravity on a
And-
space? Oh, there! Oh my God!
Some happy
Oh my God! He waved.
all around back.
Hello, astronauts! How's it going?
Whoa.
Welcome back to Earth!
Welcome to Earth, motherfuckers! Like, remember, like Independence Day.
Generally speaking, we
Make sure you don't get a Tesla. It's more dangerous owning a Tesla right now than it is being up in space. So, you know.
Exactly.
spacecraft
No, it's backfiring the
exit
Tesla.
first. You might
Tesla
hear us refer
vandalism.
to
People
this as,
are posting the
exit
pictures of them
process as
doing it.
egress. It's just
You know?
another term for
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
spacecraft.
it's ridiculous.
Generally
It's a hate
speaking,
crime.
we
You're in
most of the
America. We
time
can
have the
support any
2
politician we
center
give a
seats
fuck to, man.
egress first,
Yeah.
as it makes moving around inside the capsule a little bit easier.
All right, I'm kind of.
We can see the tablets.
Oh, look,
that were
SpaceX shirts. Guess what I'm
previously,
getting?
Located on the upper leg. Of the crew members
Website that
Oh
sells
my
them.
God, those jackets are
to the
awesome.
recovery team. So they were
SpaceX
off prior
merch.
to,
Like,
the
seriously, I'm
to
really official SpaceX store. Yes, there is.
those
Why
have
do
been
Republicans
stored
have
and secured.
There's an official SpaceX store. I'm going to send you that link as well on Telegram. Oh, dude, I know where my money's going to.
Oh wait, is that the shop?
It looks like we are starting to
You just
see
said?
the footrests also be removed. I just saw
There you go.
one there on the screen. There are 4, of course, one for each crew member.
Man, these guys and gals that are doing this, they are so good
Those
at
footrests are
like their process.
made
They're
out of
so
carbon
calm.
fiber
And this
are
procedure
actually
here,
sized
it's not that
appropriately
common
for
because I
each
mean
crew
this is
member, as
for
everybody has
kind of like
different
a rescue
measurements
mission,
and
right?
different leg
But
lengths.
man, look at that.
Dude.
Same goes
Oh, I've got to
for
send you this. There's
arm
literally, right?
length of
They've come down in what's called the SpaceX
Um,
Dragon, right?
Yeah.
and
Guess what's on pre-sale?
What?
Actual model of that. A scale model of the SpaceX Dragon that these astronauts have just come down
How
in.
much is it?
to help
$300.
members
You know, that's not that bad
from
considering it's
inside the
a
spacecraft.
model. And stuff
And
there.
once
If
the
you
crew
guys want
does
me to get the
exit
model,
Dragon
you know what to
Freedom, they
do.
will be placed on,
Buy me
to,
a coffee or PayPal's
a
better. If you want to get
go to a
Steph a
medical
model
bay
there,
for
she'll put
medical
it.
checkouts.
She'll
This
put
is
it on my
standard
head
procedure
behind
for
her.
all Dragon spacecraft
just-
flights
would
that
you- if you
Splashdown
had
crewed,
that,
as
would
well
you
as for our
display it in your
Soyuz
studio?
spacecraft.
Totally.
Land in
I wouldn't say no. That's for damn certain.
Nah, man, I'm still trying to buy food.
Oh my
This
goodness.
is
there's
exciting.
mission patches. Oh, dudes. Oh, I'm getting some patches. Oh, this.
and freedom
Well, I want
quite
that jacket.
clearly in this shot, and it
Yeah,
it's such a
listen,
beautiful
Steph and I
sight.
need to do more videos together,
I
man.
personally
Without
prefer
even talking.
the
Go
capsule
on, fuck it.
when it has
I'm gonna, you
some
know, the
of
next video, the next
that,
time you come in here, I'm gonna have Porto. I'm gonna be
charring from
on
atmospheric
camera.
reentry. It is
Wow,
the signature
wow,
sign
wow.
of a capsule that has
Meat pies. Well, you're welcome to some. Don't fund Elon Musk. Oh yeah, no, leave the people stranded there. Yeah. Save your 300. No, I'm actually gonna buy 2 now. BMW. Thank you for the
continuing
advice.
to stand
As a
by
matter of
for our
fact,
first
Steph,
crew member
come to
to
America. I'll
egress or
get you
exit
one.
for
Okay.
Dragon, calling
All
the
right. Thank you for
down
the
at
idea,
2:57
BMW.
p.m. Pacific time. Dragon undocked from the International Space Station.
Even, oh my goodness, a
Just
SpaceX Starship
about
Flight
6
6
hours
banana. Oh my goodness. I need this in my life. Oh wow.
Oh, we
Okay.
gotta look through that. I'm gonna look through that as soon as I
Oh,
go.
you gotta. This thing's hilarious.
Here's the problem I have. Look, this dude invested in space exploration, and the U.S. government does
And while
not. They
on
would have
board the
left these
International
people up
Space
there.
Station, Crew
They didn't know
9
what the F to
contributed
do.
900
They let
hours
their
of
personal
science,
politics get in the
over
way. They didn't want to
150
get
research
exposed as
experiments
not
and
as failing.
investigations,
Maybe I'm talking about NASA here,
making great
who's
use
controlled
of
by
the
the U.S. government.
microgravity lab
They
at
had
the
to go to an
International
independent
Space Station,
entity, which was
celebrates
SpaceX,
25 years
that's
of
ran
continuous
by
human
Elon
presence
Musk
this
to save
November.
them. Thank God he invested in the equipment to save them. And if
Yeah.
they would have taxed them, this money would have just been given to fund wars and Alexander
Looks like we're about to
Ocasio-Cortez's
get our
makeup.
first crew
That's where they want
member
to use your
here,
tax money for. Okay,
upon
so
egress
screw that.
of the Dragon spacecraft.
All right, where are we at?
So we are standing by for that egress. Outside of Dragon, you do see one of those stretchers. This is the expected procedure as the crew will be taken to medical facilities following their exit from Dragon.
So Dragon's actually a SpaceX ship?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay, is someone coming out? Oh!
Here we go.
Yes! Hearts in the chat, folks.
We can see folks on board clapping as our first crew member.
Woo! Yes.
And
I don't
that
think this is the
NASA
guy,
astronaut
though.
Nick Hague, commander of Crew 9. Now out of Crew Dragon Freedom.
Okay, these weren't the two that were stranded,
Some
and look
smiles, thumbs up,
look
and
how
a
weak
wave.
he
Can't
is.
get any better than that.
Like,
Yeah,
imagine
that
the
is
other,
one happy camper,
two.
that's
Oh
for
my
sure.
God.
As we said before, it is standard procedure for all of our long duration crew members to receive assistance upon egressing.
This is
from
one of the best
spacecraft.
streams I've ever
We
done by far.
basically help them.
Thanks, Steph, for
move
coming on
off
in
of
here.
the recovery deck and
That's
into
right.
This
medical
is
for
this
their,
is history.
initial
No, this is just
consultation
and
with
everyone in the
the
chat.
SpaceX flight
Thanks so
surgeon.
much for coming
So
in
we'll see
here.
that take place for all 4 of our crew members today.
You're in the edge of your seat, Ann.
Dude, I'm like, bring out the next one. Let's go.
Oh yeah, this is probably this would be the hardest part for me. Just those last minute, you know.
Mm.
And we are standing by for the next crew member to exit Freedom.
Thanks, Steph, for letting us know about this. There you go.
You're very welcome, dollies. Thanks for
Yeah,
jumping and sticking here.
A lot of people don't know that this is happening about the stranded astronauts. It's been going on for a very long time. Actually, if this was a 70s, 80s, or 90s, this would be like the top right now. Everyone would be like, this would have been promoted for weeks.
Next up out of the capsule, we expect Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov.
There you go.
Space flight.
Huh, weird. Almost like we're not
171
really
days
enemies
in
with
space
Russians.
alongside
Isn't that weird?
NASA
A lot of people are
astronaut
shocked
Nick
that it's a Russian right now. What?
Looks like we're getting some cheers and clapping.
There you go.
on
Thank
board
you. Cosmonaut. That means
as
that's the
Alexander
Russian word
is
for astronaut. It
slid
is
down the
cosmonaut.
little
in case
ramp
you all didn't know.
to
Let's
the
go.
mobility
This is
aid.
humans need to get together for this. Let's go. Yeah.
Again, big smile.
Oh, here we go. Russians and Americans have been going to space for a very, very long time, folks, in case you didn't know.
Now, the 2 crew members remaining in Dragon are NASA astronauts Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore. They completed 286 days in space.
This is still part of the rescue crew. The
One of
next
the
2
remaining
will be,
footrests
from what I
being
understand,
removed
will
from
be
the
the 2 that were
Dragon
stranded in
spacecraft.
space. and the rescue crew looks debilitated. Imagine how the other two look. Maybe they're even stronger. Who knows? You know.
As I said before, we generally try to have the crew members that are located in the 2 center seats aboard Dragon, and we like to have them egress first if possible, as it creates a little bit more movable working room inside the spacecraft. There is a recovery crew member inside that is helping all of our Crew 9 crew egress or exit from the spacecraft.
So the apparently the brown part of that ship is because it, re-entering into orbit. The atmosphere goes up to, I believe the lady said,
We are standing by for the next
3,000
crew member
degrees.
to egress or exit Crew Dragon Freedom following the splashdown not even an hour ago at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time. Really have the recovery operations down pretty quick at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to think that, just 5 years ago when we were doing the initial demonstration missions of the Dragon for Crew Dragon, that now we're under about 30 minutes for, to retrieve the spacecraft from the water. And
So
just
we're
several
looking for
minutes here
Butch
while it's been
Wilmore
on board
and
and to get
Suni
everyone
Williams. When
really
I say
to
those
get that
names,
side hatch
that's
open.
them.
For those of you that have just
Oh my
recently
gosh, thank you
joined,
so much.
the Dragon had an on-time splashdown. Oh, it looks like we're getting our
Yeah, let's
It's none
go!
other than
Yeah!
Splashdown.
Oh shit,
Big
she's
smile,
strong!
big
Oh my
waves.
god! Oh my
Yep.
god!
She, like her other crew
Oh,
members,
she's moving on her
now
own. She's gonna
will
stand up
be
on her own.
assisted
She's
onto
stronger than the
mobility
dudes.
aid.
Hell yeah! Suni, there you go.
There we have it.
Yeah! Oh yeah, both hands up. Take that,
That seems
Rocky.
to be
You ain't
a
shit,
theme
Rocky.
among all recovery operations.
Yeah!
Absolutely. And of course, that leaves NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore.
Butch Wilmore is next.
Inside
Laura,
Dragon
thanks
in
for that
seat
generous
4.
PayPal towards the SpaceX model. Wow, thank you. Folks, share the PayPal if, for that. I may, use it for the studio too, but thank you
We're
so
getting
much,
some views
Laura.
of him now as he egresses
There he
or
is.
exits the spacecraft.
Let's go. Welcome back, mate.
Oh, dude, they're stronger than the other guys.
Told ya.
Yeah, leg movement, handshake.
Once again, some
Oh,
elation and cheers.
they're like, you know what? We're rich now.
From Butch Wilmore.
We're gonna make
As
some...
we mentioned before,
Oh,
returning
that's so
to
nice,
Earth
man. That is so
from
great.
coming from a microgravity environment can wreak havoc on the body. So it is customary and just standard procedure for all of our long-term space residents to get assistance once they are back on board the recovery vessel.
Robert Lee's asking, why isn't the mainstream media covering this? Because they're blinded by politics. Support Steph the Ultra Nerd, Political Nerd, her other channel, Nerd Report.
Sunny and Alexander
All the
are
independent
safely
people. That's
back
all I
home
can tell
on
you guys,
Earth
man.
and
This is always going to happen. People are blinded with hate. Do not hate others. You can go to Popcorn Planet, get alternate stuff. It's Kim, all our crew, man, all our friends, all our family, that we've been around. The only thing I could suggest if you're frustrated by mainstream media is follow, like, and suggest to other people smaller outlets like us. That is all. We're probably never going to be as big as them, but at least we're there. Go on my Rumble, Nerd Report on Rumble. It really makes a difference. I hate advertising it, but anyways, listen, what we just saw is history.
Yeah.
shows me how awesome humans are, how awesome we can be.
Yeah.
And it also reminds us how small we are, how not like Star Wars this was, how not like the sci-fi where we just go in and out of the atmosphere like nothing, how much we have to learn and stuff, and all the petty bullshit we end ourselves for. Doesn't matter because we're nothing compared to the universe. But it's amazing you guys were here. What was your impression, Steph?
Impression with what specifically?
Everything, this entire like this is
Overview.
yeah, yeah.
I'm shocked that the Biden administration didn't take up on Elon Musk's offer to rescue them. That is an absolute travesty. I think Donald Trump has done the right thing to allow Elon Musk to do what he's good at, which is, doing this. I'm glad that they're back. It is amazing to see, literally watch history happen right now with these astronauts now back home. I'm just, it's amazing to see these pictures. It doesn't happen every day. And so when it does, we should all take a pause and watch it. And it's pretty amazing. Kind of there wasn't that much of Planet of the Apes going on. A little bit let down on that score. But you know what? I said it earlier on, those astronauts are stronger than you think, mate, mentally. And when they come out, they're not as wild and whatnot as you think. And lo and behold, they're smiling, thumbs up. A couple of them were standing at one point. Like, yeah, these guys are going to be all right. And they're probably going to be asking NASA, when can we next go up? Do you know what I mean? But on that bombshell, mate, I'm going to have to get going because it's 11 o'clock.
I'm gonna get going real quick too, Steph, but I want to remind you of one more thing that I think is important, and I'm gonna do this. I am old enough. I was very young, okay? So the last thing that I think was this historical when it came to space exploration was the Challenger space shuttle Challenger disaster, which was on TV. Yeah. This happened on January 20th, 1989. Okay. And it also had a female astronaut, and that was a big thing. It wasn't woke. It was just she was great. She's qualified and she did it. All right. It's a different time. But what a difference. And I'm sure wherever they are, they're looking down on us going, wow, we were able to save people now, and we have improved. We have moved forward with the space exploration and everything, because unfortunately they weren't saved, but these two were. So with that being said, Steph, thank you so much for coming on here. I will be covering more stuff later, so don't forget to subscribe to Nerd Report. Nerd out.